Coming to you from Orange County, California, this is the Jug Life Podcast with Max Ada and Chad Wesley Smith.
Come on, guys. Here we are at the Arnold Classic, another episode of the Jug Life Podcast. Chad Schwartz and Wesley here with miniature Max Montana. Look at his puny little muscles. Come on, man.
Thanks for the guest appearance. I was not expecting that at all.
Well, I like to.
That was right off the cuff.
Yeah, keep you guessing. So we're here Sunday morning at the Arnold. 2 very, very long days of coaching and expoing and stuff. So
Fitzboing.
yeah, a lot of Fitzboing.
Yeah.
You gotta it's all about the angle.
There's a lot of angles at the Arnold. There are a lot of angles.
So we're tired, maybe slightly hungover, but
Possible.
we're going to recap the Arnold weekend for you a little bit anyways. So today's episode is brought to you by pre-workout samples and poor fake tan examples. It's a lifestyle. A lifestyle that many people are living at the Arnold Sports Festival. If you've never been to the Arnold, it's difficult to describe, but it's like, let's see.
It smells like chemicals. There's like 250,000 people at this thing.
Yeah, so
Not exhibitors, but just people that show up.
About 250,000 attendees packed into the Greater Columbus Convention Center with every type of, I would say, fitness-related competition going on, but even things that are less fitness-related, like fencing, painting.
Yeah.
Yes. So, as well as all bodybuilding, physique, figure, powerlifting, strongman, weightlifting, CrossFit kind of stuff going on, Highland Games.
Gymnastics.
Yeah, and then the expo, which is just massive. So the best description, it's a shit show. The shit show.
That would be the definition of
Yeah.
a shit show. If it could be a video definition in the dictionary, would be just someone walking through the Arnold.
If you got like some fake tan and a Bang energy drink.
Yeah.
And
You know what the
some free workout and mixed it all together, and then took a picture of it for Instagram. That's the Arnold.
The Arnold is like the Earth put on a tap-out shirt. That's what the Arnold is.
Yeah. So people travel from Europe to go to the Arnold.
Sure.
So it's a very unique mix of a lot of unique people shilling their wares.
Yeah.
And some other people trying to lift weights in between. In some pretty big competitions. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will recap Team Juggernaut's performance here at the Arnold, where we had, well into the double digits of competitors, and then also as well as highlight some of the non-Team Juggernaut competitors and kind of give our thoughts there. So we'll see you in a minute. Does your business have any New Year's resolutions? Here's an important one every business should consider. Make your hiring process more efficient and effective this year. Let ZipRecruiter help. No one has done a better job of transforming how you find the right talent than they have. ZipRecruiter posts your jobs to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. Then, ZipRecruiter actively looks for the most qualified candidates and invites them to apply. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you, it finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, our listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/juglife. That's ZipRecruiter.com/juglife. One more time, try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/juglife. All right, we are back with Jug Life Podcast, recapping the Arnold Sports Festival here. We're in Columbus, Ohio, on Sunday morning, the last day of the Arnold, but we're pretty much all the competitions that we care about, at least, are all finished up. So we had a solid contingent of weightlifters going, and this was the American Open Series 1, but had a special Pan Am trials session to it. So, Coach Max, what did you think of the competition and your athletes' performances?
You know, the overall competition, the Arnold, the AO1 part was really good. It was run well. The Arnold's always different because, any other AO series or any other national event's going to be an open room, like a really big convention center. But the Arnold, you're always limited on space, so warm-ups are always crowded. But this year was probably the best I've seen at the actual AO portion in terms of, organizing as well as they could. And that's obviously due to Rogue kind of showing up and having good platforms and equipment and stuff. We had a bunch of lifters that were local in Oakland that did some lifting. A lot of people did pretty well. The Pan Am session was a little different. It was the most crowded back room I've ever seen. The platforms were basically all just touching each other, on all four sides.
So the Pan Am session was on the Rogue stage of strength in the expo hall, which is where the primary shit of the shit show is transpiring, where it's 20 rows of 40 booths per row, and there's music going on here and announcing going on here, and we had a booth 2 years ago, and I vowed to never again have a booth. It's exhausting just standing in there from the sensory overload of just everything going on. You can't walk through, and you're just waddling your way through people, and
there's booths. They're just like rock concerts.
Yeah. So this Rogue stage that was set up is great from the standpoint that it probably had a good 1,000 chairs set up, and every single one of them full, plus
standing room,
plus another couple hundred people standing and watching. And then where something like the Arnold or the Olympia LA Fit Expo becomes such a great event as it pertains to powerlifting and weightlifting is that all of this kind of casual walk past traffic are going to stop and watch for maybe 30 seconds, maybe 30 minutes, and the sport will get exposed to so many new people. So awesome job, USA Weightlifting and Rogue for helping facilitate that at the Arnold. But on the other hand, when you have people trying to qualify for international teams, it's a little.
Well, there's some cons to that area. I mean, like Chad said, the biggest thing was that it was cool to see 1,000 people plus standing there, probably more than 1,000, standing there watching weightlifting, excited about it, and there was a huge group. It was a cool way to showcase it. The downside, and this is kind of the downside to the actual venue, was that it was really crowded in the back. Shit wasn't set up on time. It was a little bit off. It was it was not great. It was more like a exhibition setup than a competition setup. But then the thing that bothered me a lot was, I think, probably more related to USAW and looking at it, as if you're going to have a special Pan Am session, it should have been mandatory for people that are trying to qualify to stay in that session. If you're in the top, top 15, then you got to be in that session if you want to qualify for Pan Ams. And then not combine it with AO1, just make them two separate events happening at the same place, because you just had people dropping out of the Pan Am session going into their regular lifting session. And I don't care that they do that for the advantage. It's whatever, I honestly believe people are just going to lift the weights they're going to lift. So going to their session to get an advantage, whatever, but leaving that session eventually just creates this vacuum where, other lifters show up that really have no chance at going to Pan Ams for whatever reason. They're just not, strong enough. They're not able to. They're not in the registry testing pool, whatever it is. So you have this session that's really just a matter of like a few people in there really fighting for Pan Am spots. Some people are just on the stage. And, to those people that just got on the stage and had the best meal of their life at the Arnold, that's awesome for you guys. But it didn't really showcase, I think, what it could have, and it was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I'd say from a marketing standpoint for the sport of weightlifting, they want their best lifters in there, and then from a competitive balance standpoint that they're trying to make it qualify for Pan Am's, they should not have allowed people to opt out of that session into a session, because the Pan Am session was Friday morning. So most of American Open series occurred after that.
Yeah.
So basically, if you were a 58 kilo class lifter or up, and you had been invited to the Pan Am session but decided to go into the regular AO session, you then got to know what your competitors lifted in the Pan Am session, and chase those numbers. Plus, there was just, no offense to the lifters that were lifting in there, but I mean, even one of our lifters got moved up to the Pan Am session from the regular session. She lifted awesome and hit a bunch of PRs, but there were lifters in there who had no shot at qualifying for Pan Am.
That was even the general consensus of a lot of the coaches too. Yeah. I mean, like, we all know what our lifters are capable of and where they do, their lifting, and where they're going to lift. But it was just like the 63s is a great example. You had huge performances outside of that meet, or big performances, people that are probably Pan Am level lifters not being on stage at the main stage, and it's odd. I guess it's more a matter of like, why do it that way? You got to make it mandatory, and then put everyone in the same place, I think.
So we had between the men's and women's Pan Am sessions, we had 4 Team Juggernaut lifters, I mean, the most of any team.
Oh, that's true.
And so let's start off with a lifter that many of you might not know, a newer lifter to the team, Justin Meyer. He was the American Open champion in 2017 in the 105s class, and he is a Montana native.
Yeah, Justin is on the team now. Justin trains with me and also with my old coach, so we kind of have a little interesting group dynamic. But he did pretty well. Well, he did okay. He made 155, 195 as a 105, which ties what he did at the American Open final in Anaheim. This is an example because the men's session was first before the women, and when we got to the venue, like, they were still setting up the computer system at 10 o'clock, or 7 o'clock, or 8 o'clock, whatever it was. Whatever, at 9 o'clock they started, I think.
Yeah, 9.
So they were still setting stuff up when we got there. There was a lot of weirdness in the timing and stuff. And he said to me that he felt like he got cold between a lot of lifts, and that really kind of affected him. And it was just a very odd environment to adapt to. Not to make excuses, but he could have performed a little better if he'd have made one more of each lift. I think it would have been a really great day for him. But unfortunately, we were dealt the hand we were, and that's what we did.
So for the women's lifting, though, let's move on to the next session.
Yeah.
We had 3 lifters in there. Alyssa Ritchie, who was basically, for all intents and purposes, already qualified for Pan Am's as a 48 kilo lifter from her performance at World Championships. And then we had 2 75 kilo class lifters, Alexandra LaChance, who got moved up into this, and she's much newer to weightlifting, coming over from CrossFit, a former CrossFit Games competitor, and you saw her in our vlog type of video, their heavy training day when we were visiting them in Reno, as well as Kiana Welch. And this is a really big meet for Q. She's kind of right on the bubble of being able to make the Pan Am team, her first international team. So Alyssa was there lifting as a 53, kind of just having a good time because she's already locked in, and she lives here in Ohio, so it's a short drive down. But let's go for Alex and then for Q. Hi, we're back with our Jug Life episode recapping the Arnold Sports Festival. There's a bit of a technical difficulty yesterday, so we'll just kind of pick up where we left off. So we were talking about our weightlifters, our Team Juggernaut athletes, and Alexandra LaChance, who had a phenomenal meet, 6 for 6, going 100, 115, going 5 for 6, 100, 115 for a 7 kilo total PR. Alex ended up taking 3rd in the 75 kilo class. So she's really pumped about that. We're very, very happy. Her first medals at a national level meet. And the 75 kilo class, I mean, it's probably the toughest, the most competitive class on the women's side at this point. With even at this meet without Jenny Arthur there, it was still Talara Stallings, who's been an international team member, Q, an American record holder, Jesse Bradley, who's been on several youth and junior international teams. So, very proud of Alex and happy with her performance there. So that brings us to our final of the big team lifters that we had there was Kiana Welch. And this was a big meet for Q in that it was really a prime opportunity for her to qualify for Pan Ams, and that would be her first international team. She broke the American record in the snatch, 108 kilos at American Open Championships in December. She took the gold medal in the total there. So Max, talk a little bit about Q's training coming into this meet, and then how you felt about her performance.
Yeah, Q was in really good shape for this meet. She had a phenomenal training cycle. Everything was going well. She's always kind of battled back and forth with like little nagging things or really just interruptions in training. And we even had a few of those early on in the cycle, but going into this meet, she was in good shape. I mean, her jerk was coming around. She had done 122 in the gym, snatched 109 in the gym. So, her numbers were there. That total she needed, we were kind of thinking like a 230 total was what we wanted to hit. So it would have been like 109, 121. And, we set up a plan to do that. And then, she did pretty well. She executed well. Obviously, the back room was the way it was, and everything was kind of hectic. But Q's a gamer, and came into this in good shape. Our first attempt, 103 snatch, was solid. 106 a second was really solid, and we said, hey, if you make 106 on your second, we'll take 109, just being that it's a logical next step. You've already done it in the gym, and she snatched it. Looked really solid to me. She kind of took a couple steps forward to get her balance, but after the celebration, we ended up with 3 reds, which was pretty unfortunate because that was an American record, and it would have been a huge boost to her total. And that's kind of where that was frustrating, I think, for everybody. I think it was kind of difficult to see what was going on. I didn't know exactly why I was pressed out. We also at the same time had an issue with the singlet. So as we went in the back room, I, in an extremely calm way, asked all the referees what was going on, and why the lights were red. And then I got some answers as to, it was the singlet that caused this. Then they took that back and said it wasn't the singlet that caused it. It was a reason for which we would never find out. They're not going to tell us why we got red lights.
Yeah, that's a big
a
difference between powerlifting and weightlifting is that you get a red light in the squat or whatever at a powerlifting meet. You ask the judge what was wrong, they tell you. In weightlifting, you get reds, you ask the judge, and they specifically tell you that they will not tell you, which is total bullshit in my opinion, because they don't really have to give a reason. The singlet stuff. Yeah. Q and Alyssa had these custom made singlets by Janice, and they're awesome, and they loved it. In hindsight, probably, I think that they did violate the rules because of the sleeve. We could get into the costume rules that someone could wear a full body suit, like a toes to the top of their head. They could have everything. They could wear a Green Man suit with a singlet over it, which would be excellent. Maybe a Always Sunny themed singlet with a Green Man suit underneath it. But it doesn't make any sense to me why you can wear a long sleeve, like a compression shirt underneath your singlet, and that covers your elbows, but you can't have sleeves on the singlet that covers the elbows. But that's neither here nor there. The fact that the refs were saying, well, this is the reason they got reds, or that was the reason they got reds, and then not giving a reason is extremely frustrating as an athlete for Q, definitely as a coach for Max, as a fan, as a spectator, as a casual fan, which is why they had this meet in the expo with, you know, tens of thousands of people, you know, in there, and thousands sitting there watching and walking by and everything. They're going to see what looks like a good lift, to me, to Max, to a lot of very experienced, very high level people in USAW look like a good lift. And then it's kind of like, no, it wasn't, but we won't tell you why. And hey, while we're at it, we're going to give you a bunch of shit about the singlet. And then it was just a pain in the ass.
It was a shit show, yeah. I mean, it was, you know, but in the end, it is what it is, you know, and it was like, as frustrating as it was, we had to move on. You know, Q ended up actually really not performing super well in the clean and jerk, despite making a meet PR of 115, which is good for her. It actually gave her a 221 total, which ties her best total from the AO. Obviously, sans the 109 snatch would have been an even better total. So she's going into the second clean and jerk, and even into the first clean and jerk in her warm-up, something was going on with her shoulder. And she's had this problem before. If you guys have followed her, you'll see, you know, she's had this like shoulder issue. Her trap just kind of takes over for her lat to stabilize her shoulder, or at least that's kind of the thought process, what we think is happening. And it just locks up, and she just can't do anything. And, you know, she was kind of suffering through that first one. And then the second one, it was like I was in the back just hammering on it with my hand, trying to massage it out. And, you know, it was, I mean, Q has a lot of muscle on her back, quite a bit of muscle, if you haven't noticed. So that was, you know, it was a losing battle for me. But, you know, did what we could and just wasn't there. She cleaned the weights fine, no problem, but just couldn't really even attempt the jerk because her shoulder was so messed up. She actually just ran to sports medicine right after that third clean and jerk to try and get them to work on it. They ended up doing some stuff and getting it down. So it doesn't look like it's going to linger, but, you know, we'll have to obviously figure out a way to address that in her training, you know, for nationals and stuff. But it was unfortunate. It was kind of unfortunate. I do think that, you know, to some degree that, you know, getting that awkward call when you're successful is a real hard, it's a hard scenario for any athlete. And Q is still, you know, a relatively new lifter. She's only been really doing weightlifting for a couple of years. So it's a difficult challenge to kind of get this huge emotional high. You make the lift, then a huge emotional low, it's taken away. Then you got some pain to deal with on top of that. And, you know, we didn't handle it the way, you know, we would have loved to have been successful at all those. And it's a learning process for her and for us and just development in general. So,
yeah. And I think certainly an emotional letdown there, and probably that emotional letdown heightened or exacerbated by the crowd at the event, because there's this huge, I mean, one, Q is so popular and so many people, you know, watching her there are fans. So she's getting so much support from the crowd, and then this huge ovation when the lift is made, and then, you know, a huge letdown of boos and frustration and confusion for the crowd. And that's, you know, that energy is going to her. And as we were talking about the other day, is that Q has never missed a snatch in competition, in the sense that she has never, you know, pulled on the bar, tried to catch it, failed to catch it, and dropped the bar. She has now 2 times stood up with a weight and gotten reds for a technicality for her very first snatch ever in competition at the Max's Gym Open in 2016. You know, her very first competitive weightlifting lift ever. She stood up and jumped the down command and dropped the weight, and then realized that she'd dropped it early and had kind of a funny moment with that. And now this one getting reds for, again, we still don't know why. But yeah, it's just something that we'll talk to her about, and she's going to get better at being able to stay, you know, mentally, you know, not to be cliche, but mentally tougher coming back from a miss to make these big lifts. But to look at the progress that she's made in this short career, you know, she was the American Open champion at 90 kilo class at the 2016 AO. That's December 2016. Now we're in March, barely into March 2018. She hasn't even spent, she's at 18 months as a competitive weightlifter. And, when she snatched 100 at that first AO, like that was amazing. Well, now that's less than her opener. She opened with a PR, a meet PR in the clean and jerk. So she's making awesome progress. She's just so talented and just fun to watch and has such great energy and great spirit. So
it was an awkward event. I think overall the event was different. It felt a lot more like an exhibition than a competition. Warm-up room was really crowded and small. We talked about that. Things were getting set up last minute. The venue and the stage were fantastic, but the overall setup and structure going into that was awkward. And not making excuses or anything for good or bad performances. Obviously, there's people that rise to the occasion and just kill it. I mean, CJ Cummings smashed American record snatch 2 times, and a lot of people lifted well. Just a different scenario, very different kind of setup and situation. I think those are good situations to be in a lot of times because it teaches lifters and coaches how to learn to, call an audible or make plays on the, make quick decisions and do things that are going to produce results rather than sort of walk into it and be like, this is all fucked up. Like it's everyone else's fault except mine. Why we won't perform. So it's a good practice to do that. I think it would have been nice to have. I think a lot of the coaches kind of feel the same way, that it was in spirit, it was a good idea, but I think it's unfortunate to have that scenario be the showcase of the Pan Am session when it should have been, at least equal playing field with the other sessions in terms of quality of being run and whatnot. There's also a lot of and for whatever reason, I don't think this gets talked about a lot. I don't know why, but USADA wasn't there testing anyone, which is
they were at the meet testing people in the regular session. Yeah,
they were there. I saw USADA rep at the men's super session right before I left for the airport on Sunday, but USADA was testing 77B session. I know Katie Winter said her husband got tested or her fiance got tested. He's a good guy, but he's like a 77C session lifter. But then you have other lifters that are, in there trying to qualify for Pan Ams aren't given, for one, they're not given the opportunity to prove that they're clean, which I think is important. And they're not given the opportunity for everyone else to see that, no one is sneaking by any situation when they're qualifying for a team. I don't understand why there's not a rule that states simply for the fact that you should have to take a drug test for a record to count.
Yes.
Because that's just bizarre to me, because, that would be the one time that it would make sense for someone to do it, to break a record or to get on a team. It would be to cheat to do that. And, to be, I don't think anyone believes that CJ Cummings is on drugs, and I never would think that either. But he should be given the opportunity to show everybody, hey, look, I broke a record. I'm clean. It's all official. Bada bing, bada boom. Anyone that qualifies for the team should have the chance to showcase that. Well, and USADA should be there testing to ensure that for other athletes' sake.
Yeah, USAW should be wanting to test all those athletes who are making the team to make sure when they get to the meets and are going to be tested there, that they're testing clean. That's something that I know the USAPL tries to do. Is catch anyone before they get to international competition, because there's IPF sanctions that come along with that. And I think the 2 main shortcomings of the event: awesome to have the rogue stage in there and get the athletes showcased in front of such a bigger crowd, but this Pan Am trials session, the initial list of athletes that were invited to that was 15 lifters. And I'd say of those 15 original lifters on the female side, maybe half of them actually ended up lifting in that session. And they were then replaced, and Alex LaChance was kind of one of the subs in there, and she lifted great, so that was awesome. But there ended up being a lot of lifters in that session who are not lifting for a spot on the Pan Am team, to be quite frank, and it caused the session to be longer, and allowing those athletes to opt out of the Pan Am session on Friday morning and then lift in the regular AO session on Friday afternoon or Saturday or Sunday gave them a competitive advantage over the lifters in the Pan Am session. Like, Tolar Stallings was originally supposed to be in the Pan Am session, but instead lifted on Sunday or Saturday afternoon in the 75A session, so she knew exactly what Q had lifted. And was that a technical, a competitive error by us not putting Q in the later session? Maybe, but the real error was on USAW allowing people to opt out of that session. Like, put them in the Pan Am session if they're trying to qualify for Pan Ams. So that was certainly an error. And then to kind of piggyback on the drug testing faux pas that Max was talking about, for them to not test records is nonsense. USAPL, IPF, you break a record, they're testing you. Guaranteed. 100% of the time, you break a record, you get tested. If you don't get tested, record doesn't count. In international weightlifting, Russian national championships, Chinese nationals, there's people lifting world records every year there, but they never count because there's no drug testing there. But the U.S., who holds themselves up as the great shining light of clean weightlifting, is going to let records get broken without testing? Like, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, the two things I will say about that is one thing I think that is missed about the Pan Am session being mandatory is that you're gonna teach coaches and athletes how to perform on the day of competition in certain situations they should. And if you have to lift on Sunday on Friday, and that's just the session you have to lift in Friday morning, then show up and perform. It's going to make our lifters better. It's going to make our lifters more competent, our coaches more, the sort of getting outside your comfort zone. So I think that's an extra benefit, even of just saying it's mandatory. You have to show up here and do it. It changes things up for people, and it's a good idea. The drug testing thing is just completely ridiculous because, we've been down this road so many times that now it's like, are you, yeah, it's just odd. It's just an odd choice to make. I think it's not noticed by a lot of people because people aren't paying attention to who's getting drug tested.
So allow us to point out some subtleties that may have gone unnoticed regarding drug testing in international team qualifying events. There's let's say a coincidence between this Pan Am trials session in which there is a athlete newly competing for the United States with, let's just say, question marks surrounding them perhaps. First meet competing as a U.S. citizen with apparently the opportunity to make a U.S. team for international competition and not being drug tested. Let's rewind to 2016 University Nationals in Utah, which featured a World Team Trial session. That World Team Trial session featured an athlete coming off of a doping suspension. No drug testing. At that event, when there was no drug testing for any of the athletes, this athlete lifted and coming off their doping suspension, another athlete broke an American record, which was later not counted, and there was this big uproar about why wasn't there testing at this? Should these records count? Do they count? They ended up not counting. And in the following weeks, USAW came out and said, we asked USADA to be there, and they said, no, we're not coming. And then USADA said, well, actually, in this email right here, you told us not to come. Fast forward a few years prior to that, an athlete lifting for the United States in their first competition, coming from another country, with some question marks surrounding the history of their anti-doping. No drug testing. It's like one time, okay, it's an accident.
Too, though, in that first one, she at the time had a doping violation prior to that.
Okay, so it's this happens one time and it's okay, that's a mistake. 2 times, and now we're starting to, when it's such similar situations, it's tough. It's frustrating when USA, USA across all sports wants to be this one to take the tough stand on anti-doping, and then you notice these little patterns that, unless you're really involved in things, probably go unnoticed. But when you do notice them, it becomes a little bit questionable. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just one of those. I think a lot of the lifters see it, and it's frustrating to them because it's a different game. It's just a very different game, and whatever. That's just frustrating for, I think, everybody involved.
Yeah.
Seeing one thing being said, another thing being done, and being kind of confused by it.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a lack of consistency. I think, regarding USA weightlifting's stance on this whole issue. And I mean, if the irony of Pyrrhos Dimas autographing the "I compete clean" banner at World Championships, if the irony of that is lost on anyone, I mean, Pyrrhos is awesome. This is great. I'm happy that he's involved in USAW, but let's not fucking pretend that this is, we're just wiping the slate clean for everyone involved here. So be consistent about things. There's other stuff that we won't talk about here, but there's shit going on. All right, there's just shit going on. So in some ways, awesome. In other ways, let's be consistent. Let's make sure we're doing the right stuff, so our clean athletes can hold that, can be proud of being clean and doing that. It's like, if you don't, I compete in untested powerlifting. I don't have a moral issue with it. Just do it in the right place. Don't go compete in an AWF meet or whatever. Just lift weights in your living room, on Instagram, and don't pretend to do meets. Then there's not the same issue. But we just want to see consistency. We want to see if they're gonna say that they're the gold standard in anti-doping and holding up clean sport, then do it. Go all the way on it.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So shifting to powerlifting, we had a few of the team athletes competing in powerlifting as well. Leading off was Friday morning at the Raw Challenge with Joanne Ada, Max's wife. So I've been coaching Joanne now for first meet was in August, so it was right after the World Games last year. Yeah. So she's been back to powerlifting from weightlifting now for about 9 months or so. So Joanne's going to be representing the U.S. at IPF Classic Raw Worlds in Calgary in June as a Masters 1 lifter in the 63 kilo class. So she made a 5 kilo lifetime bench PR, a 5 kilo deadlift PR for a 10 kilo PR total. Very, very proud of Joanne there. Made some good lifts. Probably had a little bit more in the bench, maybe a little bit of brain fart there. I kind of forgot to set up on her third attempt a little bit, but
first time anyone's ever referenced an Ada having more in the bench.
Yeah, Joanne for a very short, for about 24 hours, had the Masters 1B American record in the bench press at 82 and a half kilos. And then Jen Thompson came the next day in her first meet competing to qualify as a Masters 1B, which is 45 to 49 years old, and slightly moved up Joanne's record from 82 and a half to 100 to 142 kilos, but we still had it. We still had the record.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Yeah, so it was a good thing for Joanne. She kind of struggled with some hip problems, and then her and Max were traveling in the Netherlands for some seminars right before the meet. So to be able to work around those and still come and hit PRs with, with definitely more in the tank in the deadlift, and I think more in the bench as well. Excited about moving forward towards Worlds for her. Then we came back Friday night. Walker Bradshaw is an athlete I've coached now for about 18 months. In that time, we put over about 250 pounds on Walker's total. He's a 105 kilo class lifter. Yeah, he had a solid meet all around, again, from kind of a rough training cycle as he deals with some shoulder and knee issues. But considering that I think we benched over 350 for maybe 4 reps in the whole training cycle, for him to go bench 402 at the meet was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pulled 711 and squatted 628. So yeah, 10 kilos off of his total PR, but as we were working around some injuries, I was pretty happy with that. And Walker, he had a hard weight cut. He's getting his master's right now, so he had to finish up his classes on Thursday afternoon, and then make what turned into about a 10-hour drive, I believe, from Long Island to Columbus. Got there at 2:30 in the morning on Friday, competed at 5 p.m. on Friday, and had was a kilo and a half of body weight to lose in between those. So some
in
adversity.
About 40 minutes, you lost it all.
Yeah, so some definite adversity there. So very happy with Walker. Saturday morning, Kristen Dunsmore competed in the Pro American, and Marissa was in the Grand Prix. So there's a lot of different powerlifting events going on at the Arnold, and I'll talk more about those on this week's Beers with Chad episode. But so Marissa was in the Grand Prix, which is 4 raw women, 4 raw men, 4 single ply women, 4 single ply men. So it's 2 flights, all 8 women in one, 8 men in the other, on the Rogue stage in the expo. It's a Wilkes meet for some pretty good prize money. Different than nationals in that it's not qualifying for anything. Different from worlds in that we're not trying to win a world championship, but it's an opportunity for those very elite lifters on the women's side, Jen Thompson, Jen Milliken, Marissa, and Isabella von Weisenberg, to put up some huge numbers, to break world records, to try and win some money, and to do so in front of a big crowd. And in that, we were very aggressive. Marissa had a great training cycle, squat and bench particularly. She'd come back from these sciatica issues. It had been 6 months of training the deadlift with very modified training. So, she had a great training cycle. She squatted 152.5, 336 twice in training, which was a lifetime PR. We took that on the third, and it just wasn't quite there. I'm thinking maybe we were a little bit too low volume in our taper, or maybe one day too many, that maybe there was a bit of a loss of fitness there. So we're going to make some adjustments with that. So she still squatted 147.5, the second heaviest squat she's ever done in a meet. And then came in the bench with 97.5 kilos, 215 pounds for a new American record. Last year at this event, the Grand Prix, Marissa broke the world record total by like 6 kilos with a 430 total. So, that was on our minds. The possibility of maybe the highest Wilks ever in the IPF for a female was on our minds too. So, she got back on world record pace with that big American record bench, 5 kilo heavier bench than she did at this meet last year. And that was a PR last year at 92.5 kilos. So to really put that into perspective, 92.5 to 97.5 for someone who has the world record, who weighs 52 kilos. That would be like a super guy putting, probably 12 to 15 kilos on his bench press in a year, when he already has the American record bench and already has the world record total, and has been a world level competitor for a few years. So she's just making awesome progress, and she made a great save on that bench as well. Sometimes she'll right as she comes off the chest, the bar will drift towards her feet, and that's a very difficult save for her to make. Anyone's bench gets out of the groove, it's tough, but particularly female lifters, the lower the weight class, low weight class male lifters, a small deviation in their bar path can really be disastrous. And if you've seen that on my Instagram or the Juggernaut Instagram, as I'm watching the bench happen, I was very surprised and impressed by her ability, because you could see it comes off her chest about an inch, moves towards her feet, what seems like about an inch plus out of the normal groove, and at that point I'm thinking like, oh shit, we're missing it. And then very calmly puts it back in the groove and finishes the lift fairly
Yeah.
easily. So, I'm excited to see what she can do at Worlds, because if she just keeps it in the groove the whole time, she's certainly ready to bench 100 kilos, if not more. So certainly happy with that. In the deadlift, we took a big third deadlift attempt for a chance to win the whole thing. She attempted the world record 190.5 kilos. If this was a different meet where we weren't just there to try and win the big money, but it wasn't the right strategic move, like in the sense of, all right, we're going to build her the biggest total for the day. It was, well, we came here to try and get first, so let's take a shot at it and put it on there. 187.5 would have been the better call, would have given her a new world record total. I'm fully confident she would have made that. 190.5, a bit much on the day, but with only a couple months back under her belt of solid deadlift training, I'm confident moving towards Worlds that we'll be able to make that. Simultaneously, Max was coaching Kristen for me over on at the Pro American. Kristen had a pretty solid training cycle as well, but the thing about Kristen is, her normal body weight is just, I think, comfortable walking around 67, 68 kilos, and then she diets down supposed to be into the low 65s, high 64s for a water cut from there. The water cut was tough. It was very tough for her. She's very muscular. She's lean, very lean at 64.5 or 65 kilos, but 63 is the class. So Saturday morning, she woke up an hour before weigh-ins or an hour and a half before weigh-ins and was still half a kilo over. And at that point, we'd be hoping, based on all the water cut strategies, that she'd be waking up right on weight, 62.99, 63.0, and that wasn't the case. And then we had to scramble a bit because the Airbnb we were at, water wasn't getting hot enough to do a hot bath, different problems there. So at some point, 30 minutes before weigh-ins, she's got trash bags on and sitting in the car with the heater on and all this stuff going on. So I ended up weighing in maybe 20 minutes later than planned. It's not a huge deal, but I think the weight cut was definitely the toughest one that she's had. And she made weight at 62.98, went out, squatted 172.5, tied her meet PR there, a miss at 180, 396. Bench press, 2 of 3 there as well, 100 kilos. So at that point, it was an incredibly competitive meet in the 63 kilo class with Maria Hattee and Sam Calhoun and Megan Scanlon. So we kind of realized at that point, all right, Hattee and Sam were a little bit out of reach, frustratingly enough. But in the deadlift, Chris had really solid deadlift training, so we wanted to make a PR there and still had a shot at a PR total. So on our second attempt, she takes 200 kilos, pulls it, and then gets a downward motion at the top. A clear downward motion. It's like she locked it out and then it unlocked again before the down command. So she missed that, but felt confident enough to go up to 205 kilos for a meet PR, a total PR for her. She made that lift very, very strong, probably strong enough for 207. But I know Kristen is very happy to be moving on to the 72 kilo class now and not have to deal with trash bags and hot baths and water loads and all that stuff. So she's going to lift some really big weights there. So total PR for her. So happy all around with the powerlifters' performance. Thank you to Max for helping out Kristen there. I was kind of trying to run back and forth between the Grand Prix and the Pro American a bit, but solid performances all around. A couple total PRs, American record bench. So solid lifting for my powerlifters. We're going to take another quick break, and then we will come back with a discussion of some of the other top performances of the Arnold, the non-Team Juggernaut top performances, and then wrap things up. So see you in a minute. All right, we are back with our special Jug Life Arnold recap of the Arnold Sports Festival. So we've already talked about Team Juggernaut's performances in weightlifting and powerlifting. A lot of good things, a lot of medals, PRs, all that good stuff. And the Arnold is just every competition imaginable is going on and tons of impressive stuff. So we want to talk about some of that as well. I think first off, big congratulations to Thor Bjornsson on his first Arnold Strongman Championship, and really certainly his biggest win ever. His as far as I know, first like true international competition, strongman competition win. He's won Europe's Strongest Man several occasions, Iceland's Strongest Man, maybe some Giants Live type of stuff like that. But for the big ones, World Strongest Man and the Arnold, his first time winning. Pulled 472 kilos, 1,040 on the elephant bar. I don't really know how to equate that to a different bar, but stronger than all those other really strong guys, so incredible. They have that bag over bar event, like a weight for height, and he's just unstoppable in that. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Take someone who's 6'9", 440 pounds, and give them something to throw as high as they can, and he's going to make that happen pretty well. So those guys are remarkable. The weights of the events have just increased so quickly there. Where the dumbbell, they're doing 125, 130 kilo dumbbell, and guys just banging out reps, to where 5 years ago it was 100 kilo dumbbell, and most of the people were getting 1 or 0, with maybe one guy getting 3 or 4 reps for the win. That's just an incredibly accelerated rate of progress there. So it's pretty remarkable, and I think a big testament to sort of the power of expectation, that they just kept increasing the weight, and they're like, well, if you guys want to be good, this is what you have to do now. And they just figured out a way to do it. But on the weightlifting side, Max, what were some other standout moments for you?
Some standout performances were obviously Maddie Sasser did some huge lifting there. That was went 97, 124 at 63. So that's just a hair under the American records. American records 100 and 125, done by Geraldine Vega, who came from Puerto Rico. And I believe actually Maddie Sasser is from Puerto Rico as well.
I thought the Marshall Islands.
No, so I was actually informed later that she's from Puerto Rico and has never actually been a citizen of the Marshall Islands, but competed for them, or maybe was a citizen at some point through some other avenue for the Marshall Islands, but is actually from Puerto Rico. This is what I was told. Maybe I'm wrong, but
well, I guess her and Jerry have even more in common than we've already thought.
For sure. And then, obviously Maddie Rogers, always putting up, a solid performance. She said she was, kind of going a little bit lighter this meet, kind of shooting for just a sort of 93% range total or whatever, but just solid sound lifting. The depth of some of the classes was good. Obviously the 75s is just solid and stout. There's a lot of people in there. CJ Cummings, again, on two fronts. One, his American record snatch at 142, and then at 143 was really awesome. And then that squat was another spectacle. But he's impressive. I did not see any real big foreign lifters there. I know there was a couple there, but they really didn't do a huge cash prize money thing. So there was no imports coming in to get their paycheck.
Fernando Reyes made a clean and jerk PR, I thought, 242.
Oh, did he do 42?
Yeah.
I only saw a video of what I thought was 225. If he did 42, that's humongous.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that. Let me go to the Twitter
really
real quick and find that out. But
could be. I did see him and say hi to him right before his session started. And he's always in a good mood, but he seemed exceptionally positive. I'm trying to think if there was any other real huge ones. Obviously, Haley Reichert in the 48s was legit. She's a very legit lifter. A lot of those garage strength lifters are, with Dean Miller coaching them. Dane Miller.
Reyes made 242 on his second.
What's that?
Reyes did 242 on his second. It was a PR.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah. So definitely whatever he's doing is working. And then it was some solid lifting all around, but a lot of it was, kind of what you'd expect an American Open to be. There's definitely the standouts. As much as like the American Opens like these have a lot of like subpar lifting, not subpar, just lesser qualified folks. There are so many more lifters now that are in these upper brackets, these upper level of the classes, that you get, competition even at these meets. The 63s had a few good girls in them. Mary Peck was there, doing her thing. And then some other girl from Team Buford, I believe. It might be Team Divergent. I'm not sure which one they lift for, but she kind of came out of nowhere and did some big lifts. So a lot of that in general, but I'd say those performances were good.
Yeah, the standard of lifting, the depth of lifting. If you go on like Lift Till You Die and look at these older results, even mid 2000s results, particularly on the women's side. I mean, you have even at the American Open, 5 lifters in some of these weight classes who are at or above the gold medalist from nationals then. And in a lot of those cases, it's like, some of the weight classes had like 7 people in them, and it would be a pretty distinct drop off from first to second or first and second down to third. Now where there are half a dozen to into the double digits of lifters who are at the podium standard or a gold standard from just 10-ish years ago. So pretty remarkable progress there. On the powerlifting side of things, there was some really, really big lifts made. In the Grand Prix, Taylor Atwood, who's the world champion at 74 kilos, weighed in at 167 pounds, so like 76 kilos. I think even like 75.9. So didn't bother cutting weight because it's just a Wilks meet, and made a 1725 total at 167 pounds body weight. So over 10 times body weight.
That's easy.
Yeah, damn near 11 times body weight in sleeves. IPF, USAPL, drug testing, out of meat testing, all that stuff. Just a masterful performance there. Heather Connor competed in the Pro American and weighed in at the massive 44.1 kilograms, about 97.2 pounds, and lifted a 314 squat, a 171 bench, a 402 deadlift for a 397.5, so an 875 total, 876 total, and a 558 Wilks, which is breaks Chaiming Wen's IPF record of 551.75, so the highest Wilks ever by a USAPL IPF lifter. Now the Pro American is not an IPF event, so even though the Wilks record is not like a true world record kind of thing, so her stuff won't count as world records, but phenomenally strong lifting. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. And then, Ray Williams it's insane. It's insane to watch. Like,
it's so funny that years ago, not even that long ago, three or 4 years ago, numbers like that were just like ridiculous with wraps.
Well, yeah, the first 1,000-pound wrap squat, I think, was the 2014 Raw Unity. Milanichev did 10:14. So 4 years ago, the best in wraps untested was 10:14, and Ray Williams just did 10:69 in sleeves, tested, walked out to a higher depth, a better depth standard. And it's one thing to do it, it's just the way that he does it.
Yeah.
Like the energy in the room, I mean, it was 10 deep, standing room only, like 10 deep out the back of the hall to watch it, and everyone with the phones up and everything, and he just crushes the weight out of the hole, and he just owns it in every possible aspect. The way that he stands there and controls the weight after the walkout, as he keeps taking his air, and he's so explosive out of the bottom, and it just it always looks like there's more there. And it's 1,000.
Pretty much always is more.
Yeah, 1,069 on his way to a 24:08 total in sleeves. Yeah, he's just a phenom. Incredible to watch, and so interested to keep watching him. At Worlds and Nationals and everything else, and couldn't be a nicer, more humble dude either.
Yeah.
And Kelly Branton was taking a shot at over 1,000-pound squat in sleeves, got called for depth, but the level, the way that the standard has risen there is remarkable.
Yeah, crazy.
So any closing thoughts, Max, on the Arnold?
I mean, overall, the events were, like we said, they're just the depth of talent and where strength sports are going is just incredible. I mean, weightlifting and powerlifting being at that level where the crowds and the caliber of athletes are just off the charts, more so than even, I think, the only other crowd that was maybe bigger than the weightlifting at the Rogue stage might have been the strongman and possibly bodybuilding, but there was a monster crowd watching these sports, so that was cool to see that much interest in it.
Yeah, I remember two years ago, Marissa set the IPF world record in the deadlift at 175 kilos, 385 pounds. It got broken about 3 days later, but now just 2 years later, there was at least 2 other girls in her weight class who went above that 385. Yeah, Marissa since done 413. Heather Connor in the weight class below was pulling over what used to be the world. In just 2 years for the world record to be accelerating that much is incredible. And it would be one thing if it was just one outlier just pushing that record up and up and up. But there's so many other people, right behind these top athletes. So incredible lifting all around. And I just tell people, if they've never been to the Arnold, it's worth going to. It's probably only worth going to once, at least. I'm on about 5 years in a row now. And it is fun to see people you don't get to see, and I appreciate everyone who wants to come up and take pictures and chat, and it's really cool. Overall, it's an exhausting weekend. I know Max had a couple days with athletes at 5:30 a.m. weigh-ins, and then finishing sessions at 11 p.m. So I can't imagine how exhausted you are, but it's a hectic, insane weekend. There's so much going on, but it is a lot of fun. If you've never gone, go check it out at least once. Maybe you like it more than I do, and you want to keep going back every year, just because you want to, not because you kind of have to. But
we miss any major competitions? Did we miss any?
Not of the strength variety.
No kind of competitions that involved lifting of weights that were with your muscles, but maybe with elastic suits on, or
yeah. Well, there was another powerlifting meet down the street around the corner, I guess. But that's the Arnold. It's worth it. Go check it out. It's crazy, but amazing lifting, and just a ton of energy, and it is very fun. Just be ready to wade through crowds, and it's a blast though. Coming up, we have Jug Life Live events in New York on March 23rd and March 24th. Then on April 13th, Jug Life Live in Oakland. So make sure to check all of those out. Ada, any upcoming clinics?
Nothing right now, immediately, but there will be something in Oregon, mid-July. I'm thinking we have one of my lifters. We're gonna set something up there. So.
And it'll be getting announced pretty, well, I guess it's getting announced now, but going on sale, open for registration pretty soon. We'll have another Juggernaut Performance Summit. We'll be back to the same venue as last year in Long Island on Sunday, August 19th. That event is Max, myself, Dr. Mike, Dr. James, and Dr. Quinn, covering really all the big, the bases of training. We're going to talk about weightlifting, technique development. We're going to talk about powerlifting program design, nutrition, movement, mobility, and recovery. So it's a day-long event, ton of information to be had. We last time we had this was January 2017, and at that event there was 250 attendees from 20 states, 3 different Canadian provinces, people flying from Vancouver, Canada, and Nevada, all the way out to New York. So if you're one of those people saying like, when we do a seminar in Orange County and you're like, well, when are you going to do a seminar in LA? Please go fuck yourself. Because if you really want to learn, you're gonna be able to make it to those places where you can learn. Yeah, thank you to everyone who came the last time, and we're excited to have a big, great group like that again. We always appreciate good reviews of the Jug Life, so if you go on to iTunes, write us something funny or nice, leave us a 5-star review so more people can find the Jug Life. We really appreciate that. Like Ski Addict 78 says, love this podcast. I always laugh, I never cry, and I learn something new during each episode. What more do you want? Simply said, this podcast is a must. Thank you very much. Shoot me an email at chad@jtsstrength.com, and we'll get you a gift card or a shirt or something like that. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, and it'll help more people find us, and maybe they will learn something or just laugh at our movie parodies or something like that. You can find the Jug Life on YouTube, where we're always very proud of our content, produced by the world's strongest videographer, Shorty Sedang, putting out 3 videos a week, so make sure you check that out. Tuesday mornings is the podcast, Thursdays and Saturdays are our other videos, technique tutorials, programming lectures, all that kind of good stuff. So subscribe to the YouTube, find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and thejuglife.com. Max, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at max_Ada, or on Facebook, maxada, or you can email me at max@jtsstrength if you got questions about training or the online coaching that goes on at JTS.
You can find all of our online coaching information at juggernautcoaching.com. We offer powerlifting, weightlifting, super total, power building, strongman coaching at multiple different levels of price and involvement and all that. So go check that out, juggernautcoaching.com. I'm Chad Wesley Smith at Chad Wesley Smith and at Juggernaut Training on Facebook and Instagram, filling up your news feed all day. Thank you for watching or listening, hopefully both, and we'll see you next week.